disciplines. I'm Will Butler. I am the VP of Community at Be My Eyes, a journalist, big music fan, big comedy fan, and really excited to be hosting a lot of these conversations over the next few weeks here. Creator Exchange is raising awareness and building support for Oxfam. This is the work they do to support those most affected by COVID-19. Please follow the links on the site to learn more about that. Really proud to be supporting Oxfam, and I think all of our creators would agree. The Creator Exchange is also supported. Outpost is supported by B&H Photo, as well as Do Stuff Media. Special shout out to those guys for helping make this all happen, bringing the whole network of fans to Creator Exchange. You can go to dostuffathome.com to find a Do Stuff site near you. Definitely recommend checking that out. And without any further ado, I want to introduce our guests, our creators today, Nick Thune and Alex Cameron. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining us to chat. Nick, where are you calling in from?
Los Angeles, California.
Oh yeah. I'm right. I'm down here too. What part?
I'm in Silver Lake.
Okay. Yeah. I'm right nearby. And Alex, where are you at today?
I'm in Brooklyn in New York.
Okay. All right. How's everything going out there?
Well, people keep telling me it's the epicenter, and I'm in a suburb called Red Hook, and it's a little quieter here. You know, I think that I don't know where the hot spot is, but I'm feeling grateful and fortunate to be in this area.
Not a lot of public transit goes out to Red Hook in the same way as some of those other parts, right?
That's right. Yeah, I do a lot of walking.
Yeah.
I tend to. I mean, Roy, my business partner, figured out that you can get the IKEA bus for free.
Oh yeah. And there's a ferry too, right?
There's a ferry. The ferry isn't free, but if you need to get somewhere desperately, or just don't have any money, you can get the IKEA bus. It'll take you to the train station.
Is the IKEA bus all put together when you get on it, or is that something you put together at the bus stop?
I believe there's a set of instructions and just like legions of couples breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, you're already off to the races, and I might not have to do much moderation here, but I do want to be around to kind of lob a few questions at you guys should we have any awkward silences. But I wanted to kick it off with it reminded me this morning of a quote that Dave Chappelle has about musicians and comedians, right? And how the two kind of are kindred spirits in a lot of ways. But I'm also aware that I don't know about your background in comedy, Alex, but I do know you're a performer in many senses of the word. And Nick, you're also a musician, correct?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd say more comedy.
I have a feeling that, and this isn't a bad thing, but I have a feeling I am as much of a comedian as Nick is a musician.
That's good, yeah. I'm the same.
Nick, what's your background in music like?
I learned how to play Proud Mary when I was 13, and I've basically been using those chords ever since to score my comedy in some way or another, I guess.
I first saw you, Nick, I want to get your perspective on this, because I was once booked for what I thought had been described to me as an outdoor festival. And so I was like, oh, it's outdoors. Why? I don't know why they need to specify that. Obviously it's a festival, and the fee was decent. We could get the band there. So we said yes. And then when I got there, I realized it was an outdoor like expo, like for outdoor camping equipment. It was,
and there was like an axe company.
Like it's not an expo. What do they call it here? It's like when everyone goes into one big building and looks for like the same. Everyone's got the same interest. Like they have it for like cars and
it's like South by Southwest for like sandals and axes.
Yeah, exactly. So we turned up and they were like, here's your, your bungalow or whatever you call it. It was a glamping expo, basically, like where they
Yeah,
were.
I stayed in a teepee.
Yeah. And
Now,
so
did you meet at that event, or have you met before?
did we actually even meet them? I don't even know if we met. I think we just watched each other's show.
Yeah, I walked up and said hi to you right before your set.
That's right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, the idea of, we thought, you picture an outdoor festival with the kind of fee we were being paid, which, at the time was like very comfortable.
Very nice.
I was picturing, it's that amount of money. There's probably 5,000 people there, and we get there, and there's probably only it was a small event, and it was meant to be a small event. Like it wasn't.
The crazy thing about it for me is I got the gig and was flying into some small airport, Santa Maria or something like that.
Yeah, I remember.
Got into a rental car, and then it's a 2.5 hour drive. And I thought, well, I wasn't expecting that. And you had just released
probably Forced Witness. Yeah, probably Forced Witness.
That day, I think.
Yeah.
Was the day that it came out.
Yeah.
And so I knew about you through mutual friends and had really enjoyed your stuff before that, and downloaded the album that day and listened to it the whole way up there. And all I know about this is I'm doing comedy, and that's it. That I don't know.
And you didn't even know that we were playing.
Didn't know you were going to be there.
Wild.
And I listened to it the whole ride in the car, and get there, and they're like, okay, here's a map. You got to find your teepee, which was like a mile-long walk through the woods.
Yeah, it was
from
the
parking
fucking
area.
redwoods.
And I get to my tent, and like the guy next to me owns a sandal company in his tent, and he's like, here's a pair of free sandals.
I got a pair of free sandals.
Yeah, so we same ones, black, right? Black Chacos or whatever.
That's right, Chacos. Yes. I think. Yeah, because everyone else in my band got Tivas, and I was like, those are bullshit. These ones they fit to your foot. They're a sandal. You can wear them in the water. Go on.
Well, then I see a guy, and he goes, oh, you're the comedian. I said, yeah. And he goes, oh yeah, you're going up after the band. And I go, what band? And he goes, I don't know. It's some guy named Alex Cameron. I was like, shut the fuck up. And then I was texting Richard Swift because I knew you knew Richard. And
yeah.
But then, what a weird. I was swimming naked in the creek down there. I mean, it was a great.
It was good. I got lost looking for the water. They kept telling us where the reason I got those sandals, because we were on this. Me and the band, Roy, Henry, and Justin at the time. We went on this long walk, and I didn't have any sandals. I came back from the walk all blistered and nicked, and then they put me in touch with the Chacos guy, and I've been wearing them ever since. They're worth like $300 or something.
Not a bad ad right there, by the way.
Yeah. I have been wearing them.
Time in the outdoors. What's it been like being inside all this time?
Oof.
It just is like, for me, an extended. The weird thing is, it's like extended post tour. This kind of lifestyle normally lasts for 4 or 5 days for me after I finish a tour. So I came back from New Zealand to New York, middle of the crisis, and I had to do 2 weeks by myself because I got off a plane. I didn't want to get anyone sick. And that was like, that was like, okay, that was a long time by myself, but now it's been, probably 7-8 weeks since then. So it's this, if people aren't going to work and they're at home, that's just what it's like to come back from a tour. Yeah. But normally in the last 5 days.
I had my last gig was in Phoenix. and it was surprising that they were even still. They added a second day with 2 more shows for me, and this was when basically everything was shut down. And I thought, well, I'm gonna get it while I can, I guess. And the virus, I mean,
yeah.
And
yeah.
And I remember my last thing, I walked off the stage, I said, I just tried the hardest I've tried in the last 3 years on this one performance, because I don't know when I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
But I really did try I was like, put on the best show you've ever put on. Let's do it right now.
Wow.
It was pretty fun.
I think the last show we played was in Auckland in New Zealand. And
that's Auckland.
I think I think that at the time I probably thought we'd be back at work by May at that time, because we had shows booked all through summer that are all cancelled, and so I thought I didn't think there were going to be show cancellations at that point. So I remember saying to the band, like, yeah, let everyone just get home safe, take care of each other, we'll see you in May. And yeah, that's not happening.
What does it feel like? I realized, because I just had to pack up a whole bunch of my stuff the other day, and all my packing stuff, every time I do it, I'm like, oh yeah, here comes another trip, and then after that, this trip, and then I'm gonna go to here, and then Europe, and I was looking at my bags like, I don't know when I'm using you guys again. This sucks. I don't have any trips. They're all canceled.
Yeah,
that was a weird bottom.
So we've got a little like studio space in like an art studio building in Red Hook, and I just went and dumped all my shit there. I haven't seen it since. There's probably like fucking like a suit that reeks like cat piss just sitting in a suitcase in there. Like, you get so sweaty like on stage, and then normally you come home and ideally do some dry cleaning, but all my shit still just like, it just reeks. Like,
you don't spray your stuff with vodka?
Is that the thing?
Yeah.
Well, I have a spray bottle, so you spray it with
like
vodka.
Really cheap vodka. Yeah, you spray after a show. You spray your shit, let it air like on the bus or something. Then.
Wow, because someone told me just wipe them down with wet wipes. So while I'm on tour, I do that, like just the pits and the like the crotch and the.
Yeah, my friend's band does the vodka, and they swear by it. Okay,
something to think about.
In like a spray bottle.
Yeah.
Like a hairdresser,
which is also a great way to consume alcohol.
Yeah, a mist.
Got one of those right here.
I mean, we're at seltzer. I guess it is eventually going to be mist.
Mm-hmm.
You just sort of walk through a hallway at a bar, and they're just sort of like misting you with. It have to be pretty high content.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that with LSD too.
We're all just going to be mist eventually, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more though, comparing notes on, I think there's a lot of generalities about how this pandemic has affected so many communities of workers, essential workers, but also the people who provide entertainment and media and, all of our art. What's it like comparing notes from how you've been affected, Nick, as opposed to how you've been affected, Alex? And of course, this isn't like, these are just our stories, but I'd love to hear how the similarities and differences are.
Well, I guess my first question for Nick would be, Nick, is the formula the same? Is it kind of like you put out a special, or you do your appearances and hope that generates enough action for your shows, and your shows are your bread and butter, or do the shows promote other things that you make money from?
The shows I make money mostly from acting, I would say, writing and acting.
Yeah.
But the show, I mean, that's my foundation is live performance, but it's the difference between, like you and me. I feel like after speaking with like musicians about it over and over, is a comedian builds their material by error on the road, by failing, because once you put out your special, people don't want to see that anymore. It's you can't laugh at it. It's not like having a hit song or something. It's kind of like, what's the next one, and you have to try it on them and blow their minds with it right there, or else, whatever. So whereas like you make the album, plan your press promotion, like get people behind it, get the reviews, and then do like that hard push, and then the tour just keeps going if it's working, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, your audience doesn't turn up and go like, do that fucking hilarious one.
Well, maybe with like, I don't know, Chappelle or something, people want to hear that, but I think mostly they would rather hear new.
Yeah. What's also funny about that is that, like, if I had a song that was successful and the audience wanted to hear it, and I said, I'm going to play that song, but I'm going to do a version where it's me and like just acoustic guitar, just a chilled out version, people would be like, this is horseshit. I want it to sound exactly like the record, you know, or close to it. I want it to be a loud live version of the record.
See, I would love that. I when I watch a band, especially like if you were like what you just said, I would be like, oh fuck, everyone stop what you're doing because we're about to see the thing that we like, but our own version that we're getting right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I mean, that's like the Dylan thing. Dylan Goes Electric. It's like, you wanna, as an artist, it would be more entertaining if every night you could just do something that was reckless and like, we're all here for a reason. You can go home and listen to the record, but let's keep it here. Let's keep it special and spontaneous and weird. But I think generally the attitude that most bands have is like, we've got to stick this one and we can't fuck up. And that's why like you get a ton of backing track. And, you know, I don't have a negative or positive opinion about that. A good show is a good show, but I think you get a lot of bands sticking like really rigidly, especially after they've achieved whatever success they were hoping for. It's like the coolest thing I can think about as a musician is to like have a hit record or have a record that's like, you know, built success over time, and then just get up on stage and be like, this is me and my friends playing music, and this song's going to be a little bit different, but it's the song, so who cares?
Yeah, but it's almost like too, what if you like nail Purple Rain and then you give them the piano version of Raspberry Beret? You know, it's like,
yeah,
hey, we're going to nail this. We're going to knock this one out of the park. And then here's our new interpretation of this other favorite, but we gave you that, so we get this.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that, I mean, the way that things are going for me, I think that I've set out for this to be a long, slow burn. You know, I've not like had a hit song or like had, you know, radio success, but it's like, as much as people who I work with in terms of like industry people would prefer that style, and are trying to get me to go there, it's not what I set out to do. It would take a huge like mind shift attitude wise for me to aim for that kind of thing. So like when it comes to my shows, I feel like I'm in a good enough spot where people know that we're gonna like, then they know that they should come in with a little bit of an open mind, you know, at this point. So I don't have people being like, boo, you didn't play that massive fucking song. I just have people being like, that was great, thanks for coming to our city, you know. And that's, you know,
like, I walk out onto stage to your song Marlon Brando.
No shit.
And I give them the note to start. They started at 15 seconds, which is when the lyrics start. And then I say, right when he says, call me, is it pussy, one more time? Or there's the word pussy where you call someone a pussy.
Yeah.
And I say, right when it says pussy, cut it off in a harsh way, like you accidentally cut it off and you didn't mean to. And I'm usually like at the mic at that point, like kind of settling myself, and then it just shuts off after pussy, and everyone is just like, like it creates this huge laugh, and I look at the sound guy like, okay, like interesting.
Amazing.
But the amount of people that ask me what song that is after, I love, because I mean that's one of my favorite songs. I just think it's so funny and crazy and good.
Thank you.
But that song leads people into your library, which that's what you said, like the long, slow burn. It's nice to have a long, slow burn when you stand behind the beginning of the burn up, and you know what I mean? Like everything that you've done, I'm sure you stand like it's all solid from the beginning.
Yeah, I wouldn't put out something that I didn't think was better than the last thing I put out. That's for sure.
How's your burn, Nick?
I don't know. In comedy, it's funny. Like I've put out an album every 3 years or so, which is these days people are doing it like in a year. Comedians are just like boom. And I just don't want to put out the same thing I put out before, because in comedy, especially with what I'm doing, that'd be easy to do. Just to be like, here's the same tune, but different words, you know? So I really go until I fail really hard on something and then pound that in until it becomes like the surprising walkout. Like, wow, that was, you know. And the first time I experienced that is I wrote this like really long story about me saving a ton of firefighters from a burning building. And the way that I found out about the burning building was this Dalmatian that I found walking alone in a forest. And it was so dumb. The first time I tried it, it was just like, whatever. And then it turns into I closed my special that I taped in Brooklyn on it. And it's like 15 minutes long. And it's the thing that people are always like, how did, you know,
Whoa.
With comedy, my goal is to have people come up to me afterwards and say, how did you think of that? Not, did that really happen? You know, like, and that takes a long time to come up with. How did you think of that?
That's a good way of looking at it. I think that like, that's why I do like writing with characters, is because it's like, I know, first off, with songwriting, I don't know if it's like, it probably is similar to joke writing. I've never written a joke, but there's a sense of like, I feel like a good song is in some ways like a pretty solid observation, you know. And in that essence, in that way, I think that if a song is an observation, then the song kind of already existed. I just sort of found it. And you know, if someone, so in some ways I don't really feel all that responsible for it. You know, if someone wanted to try and take credit for my song, I'd
that song
into the ground.
Your song, The Drunkest Girl at the Bar, or The Ugliest.
Yeah.
That song is like, that's like writing a joke basically, but it's also like writing a nice written piece for the New Yorker. It's like this, it reminds me of like this Woody Allen thing he wrote for the New Yorker. That's like this letters back and forth between these two guys playing chess in Germany and New York. And it's really weird and odd. But yours is like these two people at a bar. I mean, it's cinematic. It's like it's definitely a story.
Definitely at some point while I was writing it, I thought, actually most of my songs, at least the early ones, were short stories, and I just had no idea how to get into the literary world. So I just was already a musician and thought, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll take the stories that I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get people to read them, and I'll just turn them into songs, and that way I can put them online. And
they were literally written already in drafted stories.
Yeah. There's probably, you know, there was probably 4 short stories on my first record that became songs, and then the rest were ideas for short stories that I just thought, this is coming easier.
I've never heard of anyone doing that. Can you? What's that process like?
Well, I was working in an office full time and slowly losing my mind, in just like, because of the ambition and the nerves of being like in my early 20s, and I just started writing at night, and I kind of made a deal with myself. Who wrote Feast of Snakes? Do you guys know who wrote Feast of Snakes? Let me look it up real quick. This writer said that if you write 500 words a night, and it's Harry Crews. So ordinarily, some asshole on the internet tells you, write 500 words a day and soon you'll have your novel. You think, go fuck yourself. But when Harry Crews said it, I was like, okay, wow, this guy's legit. And he writes fucking good stories. He just said, someone asked him how he writes his shit. He said 500 words a day. And so I took that on board as being like, if I'm wasting away in this job, not doing what I want to do, at least I'm doing my 500 words a day, you know. And that's kind of how the songwriting started, from that thought process. And that, like, eventually I started writing songs at work until I had to quit, because I had to like say, I can't do this job anymore because I'm actually letting everyone down here.
Did you ever get caught writing at work?
I got caught writing at work. I got caught sleeping at work. I had a meeting where my boss took me into a room and had a document about that thick with pages of my internet search history, which was all like this shit you do not want people to see. Not like pornographic, but like, you know, one day
like
I had
kids and stuff.
1 week I had like a fucking I had a hankering to read about murderers, you know, and that all the Wikipedia articles of like the worst human eating people that you could like think of, you know, and as they kind of were like at the job, they were kind of like, you don't want to be here. They're like, you can stay if you want, but it's kind of, we got the vibe. Like they were like, you can go part-time if you really want to do the music thing. And I was like, I think it's best if I just quit. And that was just before I went to Europe. But yeah, I think like writing for me in terms of songs being like, whether they're like jokes or stories, wherever they originate from, I feel like they exist before I come across them. And so I feel like in the same sense, when like a joke is told, I feel like I just spoke for like 8 minutes, but when a joke is told, there's a connection. There's a couple of different ways you can connect with a joke, but one of the ways is, oh, I've thought that before. I'm just so glad they put it into those words, and that's made me feel really good. Or the other way, which you're, you know, which I think you're talking about, which is, what the fuck is going on? This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a question we have on YouTube, which is relevant all the time, I think, but extra relevant during these times we're in. Nick, maybe you can kick us off. Like when you're surrounded by the same shit every day, you know, maybe you work from home, maybe whatever it might be, like where does inspiration come from?
It comes from probably every form of writing is listening, really. Cause I was on the phone with this guy today at Sam Ash, actually.
Oh, nice.
and I was talking to him about this iRig that I got and using it. And he goes, you know, I'd say rule of thumb, always have your, you know, whatever he said after that. And I go, I'll tell you what my rule of thumb is never take for granted that it's opposable. And it was really quiet. But that to me is something that I write down, like never take that for granted, right? Mm-hmm. Rule of thumb. But
it's conversation, right? For me,
it comes from conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like my best songs my best hooks have come from something that I've said in a conversation and gone, where the fuck did that come from? Okay, cool. I'll write it down.
Mitch Hedberg had the best line. He say like, he was talking about writing in a hotel room, and he was like, you can tell if a joke's good or not by how far the pen is from you and how far you're willing to walk, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
Because if the pen's across the room, then it's not that funny.
Yeah. That's awesome. I definitely have, I'm training myself more and more to be like, if that one is worth writing down, it'll come back. You know, like I think people get really sort of strung up. Have I just frozen? No. Here I am. People get really strung up on like, what was that thing? Fuck, you know, and then I used to get really upset that I'd forgotten this line or this hook or this melody. And the last couple of years, I've just been like, you know what? If it's that good, it'll come back.
Yeah.
I thought I'll think it again.
Do you use voice notes on your phone?
I use voice memos and this app that syncs my computer with my phone for notes. So if I write it on my phone, it is on my computer. But I also use pen and paper in the studio. If I'm like in the studio, I'll be using a pen and paper.
You know, I find the most inspirational time too, because conversations is where things kind of happen. Mm-hmm. But when you said forcing yourself to write, it really works.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a goal, like for me, deadlines work really well. I was writing these 5-minute pieces for the Tonight Show, like 8-10 years ago. I don't know, but I had like one a month. I could do 5 minutes on the Tonight Show if they liked the idea and it worked, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it would take me a whole month, and the first week was like cockiness. Like, I've got a month, you know, this is a good idea. Oh, they like the idea. Cool. Take a week off until you're finally like, I have to have a draft of this tomorrow to do on national television in 7 days, you know? And that's when the sitting down, and it's, I find myself, I wrote this one joke that might not sound funny right now, but was like a staple off one of my albums. But I was writing about daylight savings time and how I hated it, you know, and how not only do I hate it, but people like Flavor Flav probably hate it too. And, you know, just all these different people. And I'm writing, all these jokes are just kind of coming out because I'm forcing myself to write them. But then at one point I go, I'm sick of it. And I wrote down enough is enough. And I sat there and I looked at it. Enough is enough. And then my next sentence, I just wrote as I was typing in same speed. I mean, it's the same word. And at that point on, saying enough is enough, pause, it's the exact same word, got applause break at every show of mine because,
Wow.
you know, through delivery and everything. But it took that moment of forced pressured writing to clear myself up enough to just not like, just, you can't, if you pause for more than 5 seconds in a writing session, then you're doing it wrong. You know, like there should just be boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And you can cut shit out.
I think there's like I totally agree. I think there's like there's a couple of things I think that stopped me from like launching into the songwriting for a few years when I was younger. The first is like the question of like, who people think about, like, why do you do it? I think more about like, who am I doing it for? Who is it for that I'm doing it? Is it because I want to be a famous rock star? Is that why I'm doing it? Or is it because like, is it because I want to make music for someone? Like, do I want to make like my girlfriend cry, or do I want to make my friend laugh, or do I want to make, like, I think about specific people who I'm writing a thing for, and that sort of gives me a purpose to create, because chances are if it makes my girlfriend cry in a hopefully nice way, then someone else is going to relate to it, and also fuck that other person, it's not for them anyway. So it's like that gives me a sense of purpose that helps sort of like put like a drive to do it. I also think
that's great, by the way. I'm gonna use that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the best approach. It's like if you can, instead of pondering about what you know, like universally, why am I doing it,
or what your audience wants,
fuck it, just do it for a specific person, like or a group of people. Or
most writing for?
Say that again.
Who do you write for most?
That's like, you know, that's what the muse is, right? It's like, I don't know if I'm fully comfortable sharing my muses. I have a few people. I have maybe about like a tight group of 5 or 6 people. And I also know I've tried to write songs for people and been like, oh, you're not suitable for this.
Not worth it.
Like, you're not the right person for this, you know? And then that's like, that's okay. Obviously I never tell that person.
Right.
That'd be a good email.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't know this, but I was kind of using you as a muse, but you weren't good.
Man, you suck. Yeah, totally. I think like, I think find out who you're doing it for, because otherwise you run into huge obstacles, like whether or not you have a deadline, whether or not anyone is paying you to do it, whether or not you're skilled enough, whether or not this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. So just shut it all down and think about who it's for. That's what my songwriting advice is.
That's a great answer. I think, you know, we all have our solo writing process, but you guys both have worked with some pretty significant collaborators in your life. I don't know, Nick, if you still work with a writing partner, but I know, Alex, you're very prolific with your partner, business partner, Roy Malloy.
Roy Malloy.
What is your relationship like with Roy?
Well, Roy moved next door to me when we were about, I think his mom told us recently we were actually about like 8 years old. I thought we were like 5, but so we've known each other since we were kids. And Roy's the guy that, like, for me, he's like, you know, these are actual examples of things. I was out of town and couldn't do this wedding DJ gig, so he turned up and did it. I came back from a tour and was dead broke, so he got me a job chauffeuring on New Year's Eve. He got me a gig at a pizza restaurant. It was just this natural progression of me being like, do you want to play saxophone in the band? Because we were just constantly doing things for each other that, like, he's just the guy, you know. He's the guy, if you if the roof collapsed on your shed, he's the guy you call. And if he needed a ride because there was free cat neutering in Bed-Stuy, I drive him over there, and we just do that for each other. You know, we sort of like provide just a little bit of help for each other, and it's just a little bit of help. It's a cushion. It's support. And then we started the business together. He said to me in high school that it was his dream to start a semi-successful small business, and that was like really resonated with me in such a huge way.
What about you, Nick? Do you have a partner in crime?
Well, I was going to say this about Roy too. I've gotten to know Roy a little bit, and he in Los Angeles once he came over and picked me up in your guys's, I think, shared Lexus.
Yeah,
we went for a ride, and it was one of those things where I was like, "You want to get coffee or something?" He's like, "Yeah." So we go get coffee, and then we're done. Hour and a half later, I'm like, "Should we get some pizza or what?" And he's like, "Okay." And we just ended up doing like 5 or 6 after everything. It was like, "Well, should we get another coffee?" You know, I mean,
yeah.
He's the guy that is just fun to hang out with and talk to.
He's the best, man. He's the best.
The people that I have around me that bring out the side of me, is I have this writing partner named Kevin who doesn't do my stand-up with me, although I will run stuff off of him. But like I got this commercial I got like Dell Computers had me do like a series of 5 commercials for him or something, and they let me write them and perform, and I had Kevin there because he's the guy that brings out the side of me that is good on camera, you know, like laughing with him in the back. Like, it's just like having Roy backstage, or your friends with you at the venue. It's like, if you have these people around you, it's going to bring out the side of you that is what's good, the best part.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's actually,
which can be hard to generate on your own.
Yeah.
You know? I think about people that are around me that bring out, like, cause I can be a cranky guy sometimes, like, but it's on this line of like, am I being cranky, or am I going to start a fun conversation with you about this and it's not going to bother me? And there's people that I'm around where it's like, if I complain about something and they take it like they don't respond or they don't like it, they think I'm a complainer, that's fine. I can't be around those people. The people that I can be around are the people that are like, yeah, look at his fucking shoes too. And I'm like, actually, the shoes aren't bad. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and then him and totally. I, or her and I, will start a 5-minute conversation that gets out of me being angry that they weren't going knees to fucking chest while they were crossing the street, to, listen, the guy was walking slow. Yes, fine. We could have turned left quicker if he walked faster, but the shoes weren't bad. And he seems like a nice guy now that we've followed him for a couple blocks, you know, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the other person just shuts that down, and then there's no fun, creative, like, out, you know?
Totally. I think that's like, I've never heard it expressed like that, but it's like extremely important where to have someone who can almost, like, without intention, compliment whatever mood you're in, because creativity doesn't happen from one mood. You don't, if you're writing something, you don't go, oh shit, I'm in that mood, I should go write. It happens when you're angry. It happens when you're devastated. It happens when you're like content. Like, it happens whenever it wants. And so if you can have a person, if you're going to collaborate with someone, if you can have a person who can almost just not give a fuck how you're feeling, and know that the goal is to get the job done and service the task at hand, if that's writing a song or a joke or whatever. Shit, I've never heard it put like that. That's good.
I was at this bar in Austin, and Lucky, whatever that bar is called, or Sorry Charlie, I think is the name of it. And next door to it was this huge hotel. And on the 5th or 6th or 10th floor, I don't know, was a workout room. So you could look at the hotel and see like every floor is rooms, but then this one floor has treadmills that are against the window, you know? And I'm drinking on this patio of this bar with like a group of people. And I look at one guy there that I didn't know that well, but he seemed funny. And I go, who do you think can get up to that workout room quicker, me or you? And basically the goal was to see who's on a treadmill waving out the window to everyone down at the bar. We get in there. Turns out you need a key to get on the elevator. It turned into this whole thing where him and I are trying to get to this fucking 10th floor.
Yeah.
And those people that were there and that guy and I, that's all we ever bring up when we see each other. But then that guy and I, that turned on this creative thing where we push each other to do things that why do we now need to convince this guy at the front desk that we don't have our room key and our last name changed? That's why it's not the same on the thing.
Yeah. It's about like, instead of just being like, just sort of not open to the idea of an experience happening as like after having that kind of like having been ushered towards something. People, the response from someone who isn't open to that kind of thing would be something quite stiff, you know, or like, you know, and that's like, I don't think that's necessarily a personality trait. I think it can be like, collaboration can 100% be learned, but like, it's always so nice when it's spontaneous and happens naturally as opposed to after a discussion.
Do you think Roy is smarter than you?
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, according to the New South Wales state government, he definitely is.
Yeah, my writing partner is like beyond intelligent, you know, which is something that evens me out pretty well too, because you can have these crazy ideas, but then somebody that can actually help you fulfill it with the facts or logistics, like what goes into the idea, that's pretty solid. That's somebody that I like to have around me.
Yeah. The other thing about Roy is he's like, people kind of on stage, you know, he's like the right-hand man kind of vibe. But he's cooking up some really intensely good like written pieces and scripts, and he's like working. So it's like, I think my point being that like, it's really a good feeling to know that if he's not necessary, if it comes down to it and he's not didn't contribute to a certain batch of songs in a way that maybe people would have expected, he's like got so much going on in his own world that like, I feel lucky when he comes to work with me, as opposed to like feeling like I've got to get my partner to do something. I don't feel responsible for him, is what I'm saying, you know.
And Roy also goes out to the merch table and stuff, right?
I mean,
he does everything.
It doesn't matter if we came off stage and we just had a fight or an argument. In fact, that couldn't even happen because he doesn't even come backstage after the show. He goes straight to the merch desk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets down off the stage and goes to the merch table, beats everyone else there.
Which any good small business owner would do.
That's right. Yeah. Takes the feedback straight in the mouth. I mean, he's had flus and viruses and shit that like 100% have come from shaking 300 people's hand in over the span of a couple of nights, you know, like, it's like I keep telling him he's got to start wearing gloves.
This is a productive time for Roy.
Yeah.
He's
Maybe,
like,
actually, you know what we should do? Instead of getting Roy to wear the gloves, if you want to come to the merch table and meet him, you just get a box of those gloves. Everyone else put the glove on.
Smart.
What about people?
One glove each.
What about working with people who you look up to or who many consider to be like idols? I'm seeing like questions in the chat about like, what was it like to write with the Killers? You know, Nick, you've probably written with some idols before. Alex, what would you say?
So my mom texted me. I missed the first half of that question.
No, people are asking.
I was gonna wing it, but then I was like, no.
People are asking what it's like to write with the Killers, and I'm wondering probably what's it like to write with anybody who's sort of been in it longer than you.
I mean, I think that I write well with Brandon because it comes back to the conversation thing. We can talk, you know. It's like most of our writing sessions are just us talking and every now and then writing stuff down, you know, whether it's like me asking him a question about you know, what the purpose of the song is, or like us just talking about our lives, you know, or experiences. Me and Roy were touring in a sedan, and we were in Tallahassee, Florida, and we played to about 4 people in a record store. And I remember that the shit thing about that day was that the record store only had 2 copies of the record, so not even everyone could buy one. And we loaded our stuff in, you know, I think we had t-shirts with us at the time. We loaded our merch into the back of the sedan, and we were going to go head to Atlanta, probably to fly back to New York. And my phone vibrated, and I thought I thought someone had signed me up to the Brandon Flowers mailing list as a joke. Because
you got an email from Brandon Flowers.
But I just got an email. Like, I sort of looked at it like, what the fuck? I didn't, you know, oh, this must be someone playing a prank on me because someone's making a joke about how I sound like him or something. And then I looked closer at it, and I said, Roy, I think Brandon Flowers just emailed me, you know. And it was wild. It was a very short email. I don't know if I should read it. Maybe I should. I don't think he'll care. This is what it's like to get contacted by arguably a generation's most successful songwriter. Let me see if I can go way back in time and find it.
And Nick, I want to know from you, you know, what's your best experience writing with someone of that tier in your field?
I wouldn't even, it's not even my field. My favorite collaboration experience that I ever had with a person for a purpose was Richard Swift. I had like 5 songs that I had sketched out that I wanted to put on my first album, and was a huge fan, and got a hold of his manager, and then his manager gave me his email, and I emailed him like, hey, can I come to where you are and we can record 5 songs? And he just wrote back, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I knew, I was in Oregon, and it was like a week-long, just crazy fun experience. But watching somebody that's so good at like if I had an idea, he would have a whole song laid down musically within 5 minutes, just like not even double takes, like just one take on. And I was just so blown away. Complete
like savant, natural, like songwriter. When I first, I was a big fan of Foxygen's music, and when I made Forced Witness, my second record with Rado, and my dream was to get Swift to mix it, but when the time I wanted to get it mixed quickly, and I didn't know if he was going to be able to do it. And we were in Los Angeles, and I was about like a week later, I was heading back to Europe, and I was like, you know, I was basically like, if I go back to Berlin and I don't mix this thing, it could take another 3 months to get it mixed. And I just had this, I wanted the baby in my hands. And so Rado gave me Swift's number, and I wrote to him. I said, hey, it's Alex here. I know we haven't met before. You haven't heard my music, but like, when do you think you can mix this? And he was like, oh no, I checked your stuff out. Rado told me. You want to come tomorrow? I was like, it was just like, yeah, I want to fucking come tomorrow. Like, yeah, that's awesome. And we drove up and had all manner of shit happen to us. The car got broken into, all my shit got stolen on our drive from LA up to Oregon. We drove for 7 hours with a busted back window in the car. Me and Rado just like the whole drive. And we got there, and the most magical thing about Swift, I could tell which songs he liked because the mixes were so natural and so gorgeous that it wasn't as though the mixes of the songs he didn't like weren't good. They were awesome, but there was a way that he put his DNA into the mixes of the song. He even did some performance on it as well, but the mixing was insane. And he would do this thing where he would close his eyes and like sort of just touch the gear he was using in this way. It was spiritual, man. Holy
what's funny is I was there, and the second day I was there, he was like, do you want to hear a few songs that I recorded last night? And I was like, yeah. And so he brought his wife in, and we all sat there. and it was just silent for 3 songs. And I decided at that moment, I want to marry somebody that looks like she looked when she heard those songs.
Yeah.
Like she was just so in awe of him. And then 2 days later, a friend of mine came down from Seattle to record some parts on this thing. And I go, hey, Richard, play him those songs you played for me. And he goes, no. Yeah. I remember feeling so good that I was on the inside of hearing the songs, but then also my friend, I was like, fuck you, man. You don't know Richard like I do.
Yeah. He has, like, I know that he has entire albums worth of music that for whatever reason he didn't want to release. Like insane shit. He had like this old Korg workstation keyboard, one of those massive like early 90s like Dr. Dre style things where they make whole records on them. And he had like 20 incredible songs just on that keyboard. Like he would just find a piece of gear and be like, I'm gonna make a record with that one piece of equipment and make just the most gorgeous stuff, man.
Yeah, his collection of drum machines was insane.
Yeah. Well, so I really cherish my time up there. It's crazy.
Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but there's one last question that folks have on the YouTube chat, which is, what's the first thing you guys are going to do when you get out of the shelter-in-place order, or when you feel like you really have some freedom?
Besides Disneyland?
Besides theme parks and besides the cinema, how fucking, I mean, I don't even want to say it, but how redundant does that thing feel right now?
Yeah.
I love the movies.
Me too.
First
I just want to get on stage, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
I think I'm going to try and get in the studio with someone. Like, and this has been a big, like, wake up call for like how easy it was to collaborate with people. The whole, like, sort of corresponding with someone on the other side of the world, trying to make music when you're apart is just, I'm probably just going to try and get in the same room as a bunch of musicians and make some music, perform. I'd love to, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to fucking just rehearse with my band. Man, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I did, I performed on Willie Nelson's live stream last week.
Oh, I didn't get to see that.
And it was so fun. It was like 5 minutes long and I was alone in my room. And afterwards I like got off and I texted the guy that was like the guy in charge of all of it. And I go, hey, how many people watch that? And he's like 86,000. And I felt no different than when I had started.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I were to go and perform that same set in front of 10 people that liked it, it would have changed I mean, that's all I want.
Yeah.
So the thought that like 80,000 people with no response still is worse than having 8 people.
I guess that's why I haven't done the live stream thing. I haven't done the performing live on the phone thing because I just don't know if there's anything there for me. You know,
it's tough.
Yeah, I'm blind, and so like when I go live, I can't see the numbers, and without being able to see the numbers, you get nothing. You get nothing out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without the like, there needs to be something super risky when I'm performing, and getting nothing feels riskier than getting up on stage and like,
yeah,
you know,
you need a social network with an edge.
Yeah. Now's not the
I'm
time
looking
for
forward.
it.
I'm looking forward to shooting some porn again.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're gonna wrap it up now. Seriously though, you guys, thank you so much. Creator Exchange was designed to let people see each other's work and each other's art through each other's eyes. That's what I do. Be My Eyes is an app that allows you to be the eyes of a blind person somewhere in the world. We want to encourage everyone to join and volunteers. It's a really fun volunteer opportunity when you're just sitting at home feeling useless. But really, this is about exchanging what makes us tick creatively. So I really want to thank you guys both sincerely for being so open and so frank about your process and your inspirations, because I know it means a lot to the audience.
Wow, man, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy. I actually needed to talk, I think.
Yeah, it was fun. Felt like we were hanging out.
Yeah, we should do it
No,
again.
I'm going straight into a therapy session.
I just came out of one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, maybe it's the same guy.
Wonderful.
Same person.
Thanks, guys. And please, everyone, support Oxfam, support Creator Exchange's mission, and let us know what you think in the comments.
See you, Nick. Thanks, guys.
See you, Alex. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, guys.
Lots of love. Bye, Will.